Hi guys and welcome to my channel. It's Hila here from Saturday Night Stitch, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's post I'm going to be sharing with you some sewing projects that I have been sewing over the last few weeks or so. So to start off with is possibly one of my newest favorite casual dresses. It's burdastyle February 2019 style number 115. Now, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much to everybody who voted in the poll that I put up on my YouTube community page. You guys rock. You obviously knew that this fabric had to be this dress, and oh my gosh, it turned out perfectly. So, first of all, obviously, I decided to use a contrasting fabric on the sleeves because I just wanted it to be just a little bit different. And I was looking at a lot of anthropology pins, and so this was my attempt at trying to make an anthropology style dress. But as you can see there, the fabric that I used for the sleeves is translucent. It's a transparent fabric, and I've had this for ages in my fabric collection. I won it from Minerva Crafts about 3 or 4 years ago. Now, I made a mistake when I cut it out. I totally forgot to cut it on the fold, and I actually cut it with a center front seam. So I had to do a lot of fixing, trying to get it sorted because it's also crepe fabric, which isn't the easiest fabric to sew with. It's a medium weight crepe and it does unravel quite easily. And I'm showing you there that the waistline isn't exactly at the natural waist. It is slightly above the point where the waistline would normally be for this size 38. And I think that is the style. But again, I can't begin to tell you how much I love how this fabric moves, and I am so glad I finally used it because I have been precious about this fabric for a really long time. And funnily enough, I had wanted to make a dress from the February 2018 issue of Burda with this fabric, but it wasn't enough. But it's ended up being used for the February 2019, exactly a year later. So I put in an invisible zipper at the back, and yes, my seam matching is a little bit off on that waist seam, and that's to do with how the crepe fabric was constantly moving about. Definitely in future, if I'm going to be sewing with a fabric like this, I will probably use starch just to stiffen it and make sure that those seams don't actually move. But yes, I love this dress. I love how it turned out. And on the inside, there is a facing on that V-neck. And I used some Art Gallery fabric rayon orange, which I've had in my collection, and I interfaced that with the lightweight interfacing, finished it off with an overlocker, and you can see there that I tacked it down on that center front seam, which isn't supposed to be there. It's supposed to have been cut on the fold, but it worked out how it worked out. And you can see there the details of the invisible zipper at the back, which I couldn't zip up for this purpose because it's actually really hard to zip up an invisible zipper from the outside in. So you can see on there the gathered details. Everything was finished off with an overlocker, and you can see how I used the teeniest seam allowance I could get away with to make up for the fact that that was supposed to have been cut on the fold, but I must have been scatterbrained when I was doing my cutting out because I ended up cutting two pieces, and therefore I was trying to reduce the seam allowance as much as is possible. Okay, so up next, project number 2 is quite possibly one of the easiest things I've ever had to sew before. It is a kaftan, and it's from Burda Style 7 2017 style number 105A. This is basically a rectangle with a neckline cut in. But if you're into zero waist, then you'll absolutely love this pattern because honestly, I've never been more efficient in my use of fabric. So how this happened is that I got this linen look fabric. It's a Lady McElroy, and it's got like these oranges and the flowery blossom. And honestly, I was just blown away when I saw it on screen, and then when it arrived, I got a bit precious about it. I really struggled to decide on a pattern because I just loved that large scale print and I didn't want to cut into it. So after a lot of hemming and hawing and thinking about it, I decided to make a kaftan because I was like, that's the simplest thing that I can make with it that preserves that beautiful print. And you can see on there, literally all I did was finish it off the selvage edges, sew in the lines. So this is the draft yourself pattern. It doesn't actually have pattern pieces. You sort of draw them onto the fabric, and it was so simple and so easy to do. And I did it for my usual size, 38. Now this is 2 meters of fabric, and you're effectively just folding it over, creating your neckline, finishing it off with a bias binding, and then you do those 2 slanted seam lines, which are what keep it together. This came together in under 2 hours from drawing on the pattern lines with a chalk, and I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. And I cannot wait, honestly, I cannot wait for summer to come along, because this is going to get tons of wear. Now there are buttonholes just on the front side of the kaftan where you can thread in a tie belt if you want to. You don't have to do this. If you just want it to be freely flowing and loose, giving you that bohemian vibe, it still works. But I used a bright orange satin ribbon that was just hanging about in my haberdashery drawer, and I love it. I love how it looks. So it's quite crazy, but it's almost like it's a bag that you are wearing, right? But then you tie it up, and it just gives it like a sexy feel to it. And again, I love those oranges so much. Those are the things that drew me to this fabric. It's really lightweight. It's a viscose linen mix, I think, and it's just a really beautiful fabric. So it's like you get the look of linen, but without all of the issues that you get with linen, like the wrinkling. I mean, I personally don't mind that linen wrinkles, but I know for some people they don't like that. And it's got such a beautiful drape to it. And you can see on there the pink satin binding that I used for the necklace, and I'm showing you how I just finished off the selvage edge just by hemming it over. And there you have it, a beautiful garment that is super quick to sew up, super easy to wear up, and it is so comfortable. So very quickly, because the fabric is so lightweight, I interfaced the bit where I was going to put in the buttonhole, where I was going to be threading the belt through, because I just wanted it to give it that extra bit of strength to it. Up next is a pair of fake jeans or faux jeans from GISELLE, and they're called the Eleonore Pull on jeans. Now, honestly, guys, I had no idea what a pair of fake jeans were until I sewed these up. So they're not actually jeggings, right? Because jeggings are kind of like a cross between leggings and jeans, but these actually look a lot smarter than jeggings, but they're fake jeans, which is like so awesome. So basically, they don't have a fly front, they just have like a faux fly front, and they have an elastic band at the waist, which gives it the shaping. They don't have the front pockets. The front pockets are a faux front pockets that you just sort of top stitch, and you can see on there the waistband that I'm showing you that has elastic in it. And I used a stretch denim fabric that I got from Minerva Crafts, and it just had the right amount of stretch for this. They are designed for woven fabrics that have some stretch in them. So that's another key difference between these and jeggings, is that these are not meant for knit fabrics. They're actually designed for woven fabrics. And they turned out beautifully. I was a little bit skeptical about them, but I actually really love how they turned out, and they are incredibly comfortable and so fast to sew up, but they kind of look like jeans. So that's the inside there, where you can see that fake front pocket, and you can see the yoke at the back that gives it a jeans feel to it. And then the back pockets are for reals, obviously. And then you've got the waistband, which has got the curved seams. So when you sew up the waistband, it's got some curved side seams, which allows it to snap quite well against the curves of the body. But there is an elastic band that is sewn on the inside, so you can actually just pull them on. So yeah, these get a big thumbs up from me. Plus, it's 27 sizes in this pattern, so go for it. Right, up next is the Sculptural bucket coat, and this pattern, the first time I saw it was at Frocktails when I was doing the catwalk, and Stitchless TV was there with her Sculptural bucket coats, and I got to walk the runway with one of her coats on, and I loved the coat, I mean, it was one of those instances where my integrity was threatened, because I was just like, is there any way I could sneak away with this coat, because it was just amazing. And I'd been wanting to make one for myself. And so when I saw this Lady McElroy leopard print satin, I was like, yep, this is gonna do. And I looked around and I found some of this green and red Gucci trim with some gold bees embroidered in it, and it's just amazing. And the way that this coat came together was just such a joy, because that fabric, number one, it is such a pleasure to sew with, and the pattern is very easy to sew. So Stitchless TV has got a full video tutorial on how to sew this up, and the link is in the description box down below. It's a PDF pattern, and there are not that many pages that you have to print out. The instructions are on the actual pattern pieces themselves, because it's actually such an easy thing to put together. And it just came together really, really nicely and so beautifully, and I just had so much joy sewing up with that fabric. And I definitely think that I am going through an animal print phase, because I want to make a dress in this fabric as well, because it was that much fun to work with. But yes, so sewing it up was probably about 2 to 3 hours, and that's because there's a video tutorial which is very clear and concise, and the PDF doesn't have that many pattern pieces either. You just have the sleeve pattern piece, the collar pattern piece, and then the front and the back are the same pattern piece, but you just fold down for the facing. So I did a lot of fancy top stitching on there, where I was just top stitching lines, all the way from the hem up to the collar and back down again. So it's got, if you're familiar with martial arts, it's like a karate type collar. Okay, so the fantastic thing about this coat, having seen numerous variations of this coat, is that depending on the type of fabric that you use, you can create something that's more drapey or something that is more structured, as you can see from the pictures that I just showed you there. And that's because you have those corners there that you can tack onto the facing, and that will create how much volume you want on the sides. And again, I can't tell you how brilliant and how much fun this was to sew. I used some red bias binding on the sleeve hem and on the undercollar, because I was just like, yay! Hey guys, it's Hila here, and thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun shooting this video, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it as well. And do give it a big thumbs up if you did. If you haven't already, subscribe for sewing related videos every week. One thing I would love to know before I sign off, which one is your favorite? Is it the dress, the trousers, the coat, or the kaftan? I would love to know in the comments box down below. And until I see you next time, happy sewing. Bye.